We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Director Gaines is not with us, and I have Jackie's proxy, and Director Hendren is joining us from sunny Colorado via live stream. So, approval of the minutes, May 22nd, regular meeting. Thank you, David. Second. Thank you, Sandy. Any discussion, corrections? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
9-0. Thanks, Jeff. The June 19th work session minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, JB.
Second.
Paper, rock, scissors. Who wants it? David. Thanks, David. Anything in those for corrections or errors? Nope. All right. All in favor? Thank you. Moving right along, joint advisory. Do you have rec? And
I
lakes?
have rec
Okay.
and lakes. The rec committee voted to reinstate Robert and Alan for an additional term. Also under new business, Damon Williams submitted his application to serve on the board, and Russell Rappel also did the same. And then Russell also submitted a request for a dog park to be constructed by the Branchwood Disc Golf Course, and he volunteered to contribute some funds to that effort. Under staff reports, management, we continue to work on replacing damaged and worn out signage. Rick Eccles indicated that Loch Lomond will be drawn down from November 3rd, 2025 to March 2nd, 2026, weather dependent. We have 3 new rangers, and they talked about the grass carp contest coming up for this October. John Urquhart indicated that it is now trap and skeet tournament season. And Roland indicated all pools are open. We have 25 lifeguards, which are high schoolers and college kids. And Trey Anson indicated trail usage year to date has been 172,000, which is a 31% increase over prior year, which is very impressive. Visitors, we had 2 visitors speak, which I referenced earlier in their interest in serving on the board, on the committee, I mean. And that is it for the rec committee. And lakes. The committee voted to approve a date change for the grass carp tournament, which will now occur on October 11th, 2025. The grass carp will help reduce the problems that are, the tournament will help reduce the problems caused by the grass carp. Loch Lomond will be lowered approximately 6 feet from November 3rd, 2025 to March 2026. They will be notifying property owners, and this will allow the property owners to do work on their docks. The committee interviewed 3 candidates to replace Scott Sporoff and Ross Gerner's position, and the recommendations are included in today's packet. The committee briefly discussed repaving the Windsor Dam Road as a capital expense, and they're going to consider that as a recommendation for next year. And the recent rainfall has all POA lakes at full capacity. And that is the summary for both of those committees.
Thank you. Ms. Ruth, golf?
Good evening. Darryl Muldoon reported on golf rounds, and rounds were ended at 23,185, up 2,543 over last May. And year-to-date rounds ended at 64,514, down 5,771 over last year. May rounds were up 2,543 last May, even though the following 3 factors impacted the rounds in a negative way. Highlands Golf Course was closed for fairway renovation. The month of May ended with an average rainfall of more than 8 inches. We usually have 3.5 inches. And 3 of our river courses were closed for 3 days due to flooding. It's hard to make up numbers like that. Range buckets ended this month with 22,907 or 14, up 5,057 over the past year. Range buckets ended 9,843, up over last May, up 4,900, way up. People are playing. Okay, Graham Cornmeyer golf maintenance. Yeah, busy month. We've had 27 inches of rain since April. It's been consistently wet, but no major flooding, which has been a positive. The rain was made as a challenge to the times to complete scheduled maintenance work that at times would have been like to do. However, it did not prevent us from doing anything critical that beyond our schedule. The golf courses are all in very good shape as far as the turf quality goes as summer nears. We are continuing to aerify and fertilize the weak areas on the tees, fairways, and roughs, which are minimal in building a strong Bermuda grass base for us. There's a large washout in the creek bank behind number 13 back tee at the country club. We are investigating 2 potential solutions at this point and trying to figure out what to do. We are still working on improving green speed, trueness, and smoothness, consistency on all golf course greens. Remember, they're not consistent because of the difference of the greens. Scottsdale driving range tee, we got pricing to regrade and to resod the tee. We were also pricing to form and pour a 16-foot by 100-foot concrete pad behind the teeing area for mats, and the total for the project is $32,800. Because of that, it will need to be budgeted in the 26 budget, and if approved, it will continue to work in the spring of 2026. Highlands Oasis conversion is going. The board and management, as you know, extended the closure of Highlands for an extra month to allow for better growth of the fairways. Tournaments, we're busy. Couple of mixers canceled due to the weather. It was not rescheduled as of now. 3-person scramble canceled due to lack of teams. However, the parent-child events are all going as scheduled. Tom and the board liaisons with Tom mentioned that budgeting would start in July, and the input from the golf committee is due back in August, so we need to move on that. Old business, Dave Armstrong and Jerry Foster were elected to serve another 3-year term, and Gary Mertz finished a 6-year tenure which expired in June, and we thank Gary for all he's done to help us out. New business, cards on path for hole number 13 at Dogwood was discussed, and the committee resolved an issue by restricting cards on the fairways to hole 13 at Dogwood until further notice to improve the fairway is achieved. Improvement is achieved. And tenured range ball allocation was discussed, and it was unanimously resolved to restrict 2 buckets per person per session. Doesn't mean you can only have 2 buckets, it's just per session. And hauefully that will allow more people to be able to get in on that. Our next meeting is July 9th, right here in the boardroom at 4 o'clock. And John Hauser was newly elected committee member, and the board's going to vote on that tonight for the final votes. Any questions, comments?
Ruth, on hole 13, on hole 13 at the country club, was there any talk about reopening the original tee, which is to the east of 12 green, as opposed to trying to figure out a way just to save the current green tee box?
You mind if I jump in?
Jump right in.
All right. So we had a meeting with the golf course superintendent, Graham, and Daryl, and we're looking at both options, and we're getting pricing to shore up the stream bank or relocate the tee boxes, and we're gonna, based upon that, we're gonna have to come to the board because it's gonna be a capital project either way. Well, the one could be technically a repair, the other one would be technically a capital. We're probably gonna have to come to the board. We're just we're doing our homework first before we come back to the board and seek guidance, so.
Okay, yeah, because that, I mean, you still see the teeing area over there.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a gigantic fix if we did move it Frankly, I like that tee box better than the one that they put in. Bottom line. Thank you.
Yeah, there's one, yeah.
Bottom line, let's just change it.
And we're also trying to see what village wastewater would be potentially willing to contribute to keep the existing tee boxes in place. And the plans that we drew up 6 years ago for the redesign of the golf course does include relocating the tees to where they used to be. So we have multiple conflicting issues, and they're working on that, and then we'll be coming to the board once, but we need hard numbers right now.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for.
Anything else from Ms. Ruth? No? Beth, financials?
All right, looking at May. Starting with the consolidated overview for the month, and this is POA and water combined. Revenue is $3,780,000. Actual numbers are in orange. Budget is in gold and prior year in green. So you see that revenue exceeded budget in prior year for the month. Consolidated expenses also exceeded budget and prior year, and EBITDA came in for the month at a negative $355,000, which was worse than budget and prior year. And we'll get little details as we go. Looking year-to-date numbers, revenue is still beating budget and prior year. Expenses are exceeding budget and prior year. And EBITDA came in at $1,012,000 year-to-date, which is just under budget and about $900,000 less than prior year. POA only, this is year-to-date numbers. We are still showing the results of the adverse weather earlier in the year. Revenue is still under budget, and but still over prior year. Cost of goods sold is right at budget and over prior year. Expenses are just under budget, better than budget, and over prior year. And EBITDA year to date for the POA is a negative $579,000, which is worse than budget and prior year. So looking at just for the month, you will see that we did beat revenue for the month in May for the POA. We beat budget and prior year both. Golf fees were $81,000 better and $76,000 better than the year before. Pro shop sales were $9,000 better than budget and $28,000 better than prior year. And F&B sales are $29,000 better than budget and $118,000 more than prior year. There wasn't any big, huge, worse than budget in May. Boat income was $10,000 worse. Member transfer fees were $9,000 worse. But they continue to be $32,000 better than budget year to date. Looking at expenses, expenses was worse than budget and prior year for the month for the POA. Operating expenses were $108,000 worse than budget, but they are still better than budget year to date, $69,000. Fuel and oil was better than budget in May and better year to date. Outside contracts was better in May. Worse than budget was salaries and wages, which was $27,000 worse than budget. That is spread across several departments, a little bit in each, and we don't expect that to be a trend that continues. In line with the salaries and wages is the employee benefits, worse than budget. Maintenance and repairs was $24,000 worse than budget, and that was largely due to timing, was when the expenses hit versus when they're budgeted, and insurance was $21,000 worse than budget. Looking at golf, picking that out of the POA, the revenue was $710,000 for the month, which is better than budget and prior year. Again, we're still feeling those effects. We haven't made it up yet from the adverse winter, so we're still under budget year to date and prior year. We did have a lot of rain in May, but it was still overall better weather in May than we'd had in previous months. Golf fees had a strong month. And although we're still 181,000 behind year to date, they are now only 81,000 behind prior year. Let me say that again. Although still 181,000 behind budget year to date, we're now only 81,000 behind prior year to date. All locations exceeded the budgeted revenue in May except Scottsdale. It was 14,000 worse than budget. Kingsdale was the biggest winner by beating budget by 50,000. And looking at F&B, in May, the revenue was 537,000, which was a little bit more than budget and quite a bit more than prior year. Year to date, again, it's like golf, still seeing the results of the adverse weather, and so it's under budget, but still better than prior year to date. Total revenue for May was 29,000 better than budget. And year to date, it's 287,000 better than the prior year. Gross margin for May was 61% of revenue, not considering the member discounts. So moving to water, this is year to date. Water has revenue of $5,285,000, which is 501,000 better than budget and 721,000 better than prior year. Cost of sales is worse than budget and prior year. If you have more sales, you're going to have more cost of sales. Expenses are 292,000 worse than budget and 337,000 worse than prior year. A lot of that is timing and the purchase of supplies and meter installation materials, and you'll see that really in the month of May here in a minute. EBITDA is $1,591,000, which is 85,000 better than budget year to date and 243,000 better than prior year to date. Looking at water for the month of May, it was revenue of $1,134,000. That can be accounted for mostly by water sales, is 20,000 better. New service connections, 57,000 better than budget, and capital buy-in fees, 66,000 better than budget. Looking at expenses, operating expenses for water were 244,000 worse than budget for May. Again, mostly due to early purchases of supplies compared to when budgeting. Also, there's an increased demand for meters with all the growth, and you saw that in the revenue, but it hits the expense as well. So between the increase of demand and also purchases hitting earlier than planned, supplies is 224,000 worse than budget. Maintenance and repairs was a little bit better than budget, and salaries and employee benefits was just 9,000 each worse than budget. Moving to cash, water operating has $4,129,000 at the end of May, reserves of $1,580,000 at the end of May. POA's operating was $922,000 and reserves $846,000 with a total cash of nearly $7.5 million. And the one pager you see on the left, the departments that and how they compare to budget year to date. The biggest winners are golf maintenance, maintenance and construction, water, lakes and parks. General income, that's really driven by health insurance and insurance costs for the most part, is worse than budget. Food and beverage, golf pro shops, we talked about those being worse than budget year to date, affected by the weather. The debt hasn't changed to the water of $3.1 million, and the bank loans stand at $5.8 million. Any questions?
Thank you, Beth. Open forum, no emails. Did you guys want to speak? No? Okay. So that, no problem. We're happy to have you here. So we don't have any responses still for them. So moving right along, trails, I guess I didn't need to turn that off today.
You're doing a great job. Okay, so consistent with what was presented at the work session, here are some proposed trails that the Trailblazers have brought forth to us. So first of all, I wanted to go back in time and talk about completed trails, trails that are in progress, and trails that have been approved by the board but have not yet hit the progress category. So completed, and some of these go back a couple of years. You have the Kingsdale Cutoff Connector, Tavistock, Rillington, otherwise known as Snowbird, the Lake Ann Dam Parking Trailhead, and Birksdale West All-Weather Family Loop and Trailhead. So those have been completed. The ones that are in progress is 71B Parallel Connector with 2 additional loops in there. So those are actually getting pretty close. The Lago Vista West beginner loop is in the design phase, and Birksdale South, the permanent concrete path is still working on funding, and the design is by and large complete. So good progress on those. And then in the bottom left, you can see the ones that have been approved by the board, in some cases a couple of years ago, but have not been forgotten, but just have not progressed significantly. So you have the Pinion Creek Beginner Loop, the Mulligan Beginner Loop, the Wentworth Neighborhood Connector, Caverna, I always struggle with how to say that one, Neighborhood Connector, and the Southwest Chelsea Hiking Multi-Use Trail. So here is a list of proposed trails, and I'll be covering each of these. Below the Bluff, Dalton Drive, Vista to Down Under, Murphy Lane, Oldham, Tavistock, Tunnel Vision, Lake Norwood, and Birksdale South. And here we're going to get into the detail. So below the bluff, you'll see that this is just to the east of Birksdale South, or just a little bit northeast of Allens. And this would connect these two areas together. It would be a total of 0.75 miles and would give access to more residents and feature stunning bluff views. Stunning. I didn't prepare the presentation. Dalton, this is kind of related to the last one, and this is using the old, we call it the flat bridge. It's the southernmost bridge that is currently not in use. They brought out some engineers and looked at the bridge and determined it was in great shape. It just needs to have some railings installed. But I walked this just 2 days ago, and the bridge is in fine shape. So this would allow our mountain bikers to get across Little Sugar, which is a great thing to do. And this trail is, by and large, I'm going to call it an ad hoc trail. Pretty much people are using it already. The ground is already beaten down, so I'm going to call it an ad hoc trail. So it's not a formal approved trail, but there's already a trail in place. So this would follow the existing ad hoc trail. This is Vista to Down Under, and on the image on the lower left, you can see the location of Lowe's. And this would go connect the 2 points that are starred, 0.47 miles, and you can see there's not a lot in that area, very few homes, but it's going to create a better connector for future growth in Bella Vista. And once again, I've mentioned this before, when they originally built some of these areas like Little Sugar and the back 40, they had larger loops of 10 and 20 miles, and they're finding that people want to have shorter loops that are 2, 3, 5 miles, make it a little bit easier for beginners and so forth. This is Down Under Murphy Lane Extension. So the existing trail is in red, and we have chronic problems with the existing trail. It gets blown out every time it rains. So while we would extend it 0.84 miles, in the long run, it's probably going to cost us less because that trail, the existing trail, keeps on getting blown out. On the next few images, you're going to see the red indicates existing trails and the yellow indicates proposed trails. This is Oldham North. So you can see in the top portion of the image, you have Cunningham Corner, DQ, and this is going to go along the highway. It's going to help connect to the bike park, the Fugitive Bike Park, which makes a lot of sense. It's almost like being able to ski into your lodge if you're a skier, to be able to ski in. You can bike in from multiple locations to the bike park. This is proposed increase of 0.52 miles. This is Tavistock to Snack Attack. Tavistock was added several years ago at the request of the neighbors in this area, and this has been a very successful portion of the trail, and they would like to connect this down 0.25 miles and enhance the route options, improve user flow. And this is just to the west of the last image. You can actually, on the bottom right of this image, you can see Tavistock. So this is just to the west, and this will once again enhance the experience, supports long-term trail sustainability, and adds 0.6 miles. This is Lake Norwood. This is going to be a very scenic route. The majority of this land is owned by, I say, Blue Crane, Trailblazers, family, Ropes, et al. This is all owned by and large by the same entities. I'm sure from a legal point of view that's an incorrect statement, but by and large the same entities. So they own pretty much from that vertical line over, all that land is owned by them. So the POA owns the land in the upper portion where the yellow and red lines are located. So it's clearly going to give a lot of very nice scenic views of that lake. This is a very steep area, which is why part of the reason why hasn't been a lot of homes installed in that area, because it is very, very steep. And then the last one is Birksdale South. This is a temporary trail. We talked about they're still working on the permanent concrete path, which will by and large, not exactly, but by and large, follow the contour of Little Sugar, but they would like to get the temporary path going sooner and then keep the temporary path going until the permanent path is 100%. So at the last meeting, the board had a number of questions, and so I contacted the Trailblazers and was able to get answers to pretty much everything, and I also toured the location with the golf course superintendent, the assistant superintendent, with Graham, and with our safety coordinator. So we all went out there and visited so we could look at it from a safety point of view, from an agronomic point of view, and sustainability point of view. And so one of the concerns was that was brought up was didn't want to have the agreement to be too long-term. So the Trailblazers had said a 3-year temporary agreement would be great. I think the concern is we didn't want to be in a situation where we give them a 25-year agreement and then the temporary turns into permanent. So they're willing to go with the 3 years. Pretty much all the temp trails will follow existing ad hoc And so the blue on the lower portion, there's already an ad hoc trail there. People have beat down that area, so it's going to follow that. Same for the northern portion or the western portion. There's already an ad hoc trail in that area, so they're just going to follow. There's nothing grown in those two locations. It's just beat down. They are going to route around the butterfly sanctuary, and the Trailblazers are talking about potentially adding some additional butterfly sanctuaries because they appreciate that. The west portion will connect to the concrete loop over there, following the ad hoc trail that's already in place. The majority concern was over the safety of the old cart path. The majority of the old cart path is actually in better shape than the majority of our existing cart paths on the other golf courses, except for by the bathroom and where it narrows as you get closer to going under the bridge. Other than those two areas, the path's in pretty good shape. So the Trailblazers have agreed to overlay those two problematic sections because they're chewed up, and in some cases the cart path is just disintegrated and gone. So they'll take care of those two areas. I assume that when they bring out the machine to overlay over the ad hoc trails, they'll just do that section also. They've also agreed to add protective fencing in the washed out areas. The Trailblazers, they like the idea of splitting the traffic, although we have a number of trails in that area, so they could actually have some options there, but do recognize that when you get closer to going under the bridge, basically from the restroom forward, it is going to narrow in that area because we don't have multiple trails in that area. But where we have multiple trails, we can use them, but when we get to the restrooms, that's a different story. And once again, this is a temporary fix. It's not going to be perfect. It's not a permanent situation. The permanent trail will actually be 12 foot wide, except for underneath the bridge. And the most portions of the greenway are only 10 foot wide. So they understand it's going to be busier. So once again, the temporary fix is not going to be perfect. It's temporary. Questions on any of the proposed trails?
Tom, there's actually a third path over there. I don't know if it's a golf cart path, but that's where all the bikers were when I went over there.
Yeah, there's one further to the east.
No, it would be to the west.
And that one's a little bit,
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's where the bikers were.
right.
People were walking on the middle one and the one on the right, but the bikers are all taking the other one.
So, yeah, I mean, we're going to allow them to continue to use the other ones. But what we talked about doing is having traffic signs, to try and encourage people to stay on the right-hand side going north, and when they're coming south, stay on the right-hand side, so.
I have a question.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Just to Sandy's point, something I'd be concerned with potentially is liability. If we're letting people just ride bikes right now, that's potential problems because we're not covered under the Parks and Recreation statute is the way I understand it. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Are we gonna make a motion so that we can officially start discussing this? Because that wasn't one of my 2 times of speaking.
And are they gonna be split up, or are we gonna do them each individually?
We would do it one at a time because a board member may like one trail, but not like another trail.
We'll let Doug answer Jeff's
Yeah,
question,
I
then
was
we'll go
just
into
gonna say,
motion.
Let me just answer Jeff really quickly. As has been noted here, there's already a lot of traffic there, a lot of people using that. So we do have some liability exposure there. But with the agreement that we signed, like Tom mentioned, we will, license the areas that we've had outlined here, and then we'll sign to the best of our ability where the traffic is supposed to go. It's not a perfect solution, but we're not going to be able to wrangle people. We're not going to be able to stop them from using those trails that they've already been using.
I guess if we put signage up, at least we're telling them they're not supposed to be there, so that would at least be some benefit, I guess.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have a question. On the discontinued trail, back,
Where'd I go?
where they're gonna, because of the maintenance challenges, they're gonna reroute. I noticed there's some residential by that. Has there been any,
Which one? All right, let
anything
me- hold on.
done to look at any environmental impact of discontinuing or closing that trail and how it might affect the residents in that area?
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we indicated is that, when we had Trey here, in attendance, is that we would, make it so that it will reforest, it's gonna reforest rather quickly. Once you stop using a trail, it's gonna reforest, but they're gonna put some barriers to block that. If anything, it's gonna be a little bit of an improvement, because it is a tight area in that area. So from a property owner point of view, some property owners don't have any issue with the trails going close, and some do. And the trailblazers have traditionally been very good about working with property owners that have an issue and either put up foliage or what have you to try and soften the impact.
could you, while we go through each one of these, can we have them?
Sounds
have them
good.
up here? All right, we will start with below the bluff.
There we go.
Need a motion?
I make a motion approving the below the bluff trail.
Okay. Second, anybody?
Second.
Thanks, JB. Discussion on this one.
I'll just make a blank statement over
Okay.
most of these, is that there are still many members that feel that we have enough trails, and for them, I will be voting no.
Fair enough. Anything else on below the bluff? All in favor for approving the, it is hard to say, below the
You were
bluff.
criticizing me, and here you're having the same problems.
What can I say? I'm a hypocrite. All in favor? I have Jackie's. And all opposed? 8-1. Okay. Vista to Down Under. Or Dalton to Greenway.
Ah, how am I doing?
There
Here we go.
Need a motion for Vista to Down Under.
So moved.
Thank you, JB. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Jeff. Discussion on this one? Nope. All right. All in favor of Vista to Down Under? All opposed? 8-1. Fair enough. Dalton to Greenway. Motion on that one, please.
Make a motion approving the Dalton Drive to Greenway Trail.
Thank you, Kathleen. Second. JB?
I'll second.
JB, thank you. She beat you, Jeff. Any discussion on this particular trail? No? All right. All in favor of Dalton Drive to Greenway? All opposed? 8-1. Tavistock
No, I'm
to
sorry, this is.
Snack Attack.
We lack a suggested motion on this one.
This one? Okay.
Yes.
Then we will do
So-
Down Under Murphy Lane Extension. Motion. Bob, thank you. Second?
Second.
Jeff got that one? Any discussion on this one?
I just hope that they did in fact speak to those property owners. I know that some people like the trails around their house and others do not, so I hope they were notified.
And the fact they're gonna bring that back to naturals. Good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? 8-1. Now can we do traffic tax? Oldham.
Hold on. I may have gotten, no,
We did that.
we already did that one. How am I doing?
Snack tax, one more.
That's it, connects to.
There, okay, there's Tavistock.
Motion for Tavistock to snack attack.
I move to approve, I lost it now, I can't read it, so anyway, the snack attack trail that we're talking.
Thanks, Jeff. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Kathleen. Any discussion on this one?
I'd like to say these ones that are connecting the trails down to the bike park just make a lot of sense. They're not a significant amount of distance, but they will make that area so much more accessible and usable.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments? All in favor? All opposed? 8-1.
Okay, let's see that one.
We don't have a suggested motion on this one yet.
Okay. Motion for Oldham North.
So moved.
Thank you, JB. Think a second. Thank you, Kathleen. Any conversation on this one? Okay. All opposed? I mean, all in favor? Sorry. And opposed? 8-1. Back on.
And when we're all done, I'm gonna go back and just make sure I didn't miss any of them, so.
We did that one. Tunnel vision. Motion for tunnel vision.
Motion.
Thanks, Bob. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any conversation on this one? A little over a half mile.
That too has a lot of houses that it goes right behind. That's a lot. Just saying.
I would imagine that those people have already been talked to because of the trail that's already down through that draw.
Anything else? All in favor of tunnel vision green? Fine. Opposed? 8-1. Lake Norwood? This one's gonna be pretty scenic, as they say. Stunning.
I make a motion approving the
Stunning.
Lake Norwood Loop Trail.
Thank you, Deborah.
Second.
Thank you, David. Stunning. That is gonna be pretty. Any questions, conversation, comments on this one? Nope. All in favor? Opposed? 8-1. Temporary, 3-year temporary trail on the current cart path at Brooksdale South.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Second on this one?
Second.
Thank you, JB. Any further communication on this one?
Yes, I just want to point out, I was out there Saturday and walked that trail, and I noticed a lot of young kids getting on the trailhead with their parents. Most young kids, and I'm talking 7, 8, 9-year-olds, right ahead of their parents. And I can tell you that what they've done to secure the area by the washout towards the creek is not going to keep a little child that age from going right under into that bypass. And I know there's an assumption of risk, but there are also exceptions for assumption of risks. And I would not be able to, unless I had great assurances that that area is totally blocked off until they repair everything, I would not be able to support this. So,
I just want to say that my opinion of Birchdale South has not changed. It is a very valuable piece of property. And the reason that we previously approved the trail going around the park, the outside, was so that the POA would be able to develop what they wanted on the land. And so I am opposed to any licensing of any more of that property. I mean, we're talking a 30-foot swatch through two pieces there in the middle. And if we want to put a soccer field in, or a baseball diamond, or whatever, we wouldn't be able to do that. That's number one. Number two, this has been closed since 2018, and we have allowed people to walk on it, ride their bikes on it. And I would hope that we have liability insurance for that piece of property. So I don't understand the need to license away our land in order to be protected by the statute. And going underneath the road there, I would assume that concrete is owned by the Federal Highway Administration along with the bridge that goes across. And it's a mess. I mean, there is mud on half of that down there. We clearly run equipment through there. There's tire tracks of at least a tractor. How are we gonna get our equipment back and forth through there? And I just don't see why we're doing this, because we've already licensed 30 feet around the outside. I can't support it.
We're gonna continue to, we currently use the tunnel to get mowers over to the other side to mow. To address Bob's concerns, they've already agreed to add fencing along the creek. And another idea, Sandy brought up a number of concerns about what we could do to this agreement. If we're concerned about future development that would potentially occur within the 3-year period, we could add a opt-out clause for the POA in the agreement that if we decided to add pickleball courts or something like that within the next year, we could exit out of the agreement.
Yeah, that's, and it's time constrained, it's 3 years. And we could put some additional limitations in there as well. I don't think that's an issue. We can draft that in if that's what the board would like to see.
I have some thoughts on this one as well. If in progress is the Birchdale South concrete path, which I assume is what you're referring to, my question would be why the delay and how long is it? And it obviously must be longer than 3 years if we're planning on putting a temporary trail in. So that would be my first question and quandary, I guess. And secondly, I strongly agree that since I've been involved, I've not heard any long-term plans for that property, and that is very valuable property to our members. While I am 100% supportive of a greenway, I think it's a great idea running through the middle and potentially inhibiting our plans to do something and take the best advantage of that property is concerning to me, and I'm not sure I can support this one either.
So to talk about the permanent concrete path, that's going to be on, I referenced earlier, by and large follow the contour of Little Sugar, and that area is the most that is in the flood zone. It pretty much goes north, the height where it says existing cart path in the middle, where just not where it points or indicates, but actually the physical wording there, that is the highest location. So the area that the permanent path would follow is by and large unusable land because it's in the flood zone. That was part of the discussion when the board approved the permanent path. That was part of the discussion, is we're really not giving up anything because you can't put a building that close to Little Sugar. It's going to be a problem. Did I miss some questions?
I have a
Yeah,
couple.
so my question was, if that's never been done, it's still considered in progress, we're putting this in place temporarily, why are we not working on that? How long is that gonna take? Why is, I guess I'm not understanding the give and take on these two issues.
Okay, so they're working on the permanent path, but they have to work with, engineers. They have to work with I'm pointing to JB, the planning commission. They gotta work with the city. It just takes time. So they anticipate it's gonna take 1 to 2 years until the path is operational. If you look at this, they're basically pouring the 2 teal areas and putting up fencing. The fencing is gonna be used not only for temporary, but for permanent. So they can easily do those 2 sections and get this area operational while they're waiting for all the permitting and all the other stuff that they have to do for the permanent.
Didn't you say something about finishing the funding for it too?
They gotta work on the funding also.
So that takes time.
I think another item for consideration is that 3 years goes by very, very quickly. I think also that the improvements that they're going to make under the highway, particularly, and fencing along there, is to our benefit. In the 8 years that area has been shut down, that creek bank has not eroded anymore like we thought it would 8 years ago. Part of the reason for that is because the golf courses changed their management practice at that time. We used to be able to play golf on Birksdale, Kingswood, and we could basically walk right up to the creek. They kept the creek bank clear. The flood study that we had done pointed out the error in that. The vegetation that grows along Little Sugar keeps the bank stable. And we have not had any more erosion in that area along Birksdale South since they let the vegetation grow up, as opposed to hole 13 on the country club, which does not have any vegetation, and it's eroding away. Also, the Little Sugar Creek right at the Kingswood maintenance shop, where Little Sugar Creek turns away from the highway, there's no vegetation on that creek bank either, and it's eroding seriously. So to think that, a third point that I wanted to make is that to think that we're going to be able to dedicate funding to something on the Birksdale South property within the next 3 years, I don't think it's going to happen. We've got enough things staring us in the face for the next 5 years that anything that would happen on Birksdale South, I think, would be funded by an external agency. I don't think the POA is going to be able to handle it. So those are my thoughts on this. Thank you.
I have a couple quick thoughts. To Sandy's point, I think we can alleviate some of that issue with the 3 years. Not to disagree with what David just said, but if we put that opt-out clause, that takes care of that issue. And to Bob's point that it's not currently safe and therefore he couldn't support it, my thought on that is it's not currently safe and we're allowing people to use it anyway, and the Trailblazers are going to make it safer, plus we will be covered from the liability by issuing this agreement. So therefore I'm in favor of it.
Jeff, Sandy, do you have something else?
Yeah, I think that the prudent thing to do would be to table this until we see the proposed license agreement. And I'd also like to see the engineering report. Are they able to build it where it's been licensed? Is there a problem with that? It being in a flood zone, the Corps of Engineers already told them they can't build it there? Has the city denied any permits?
No, I don't
No.
This is just basically for the use of the cart path, doesn't have anything to do
That's
with
all it is.
what we've already, well, what the board at the time, or correct me if I'm wrong, but the board at the time, that the trail that they're gonna be building, doesn't have really anything to do with that other than when they get it done.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what year did we agree to license that?
23.
So they've had 2 years? What year did we license
Oh.
Burkesdale South?
Oh, yeah. I think it was 23.
So they've had 2 years and they haven't begun building.
And there's a bunch
I
of other
just
ones
wondered
that-
if there's a problem.
I haven't heard of any problems. I haven't.
I just don't understand licensing. We'll have 90 feet through that park licensed.
I just feel like the time and effort would be better spent in the original agreement than trying to do this.
Well, do we want to go to a vote or do we want to table it for further conversation?
There's an
I mean,
open
if they've,
motion, you
There's
have
an
to
open
say-
motion,
well,
you gotta finish it.
That's
yes.
true, sorry.
if they've
Someone else
had
wants to make a
since
motion.
2023 to operate in this. I'm telling you, you take your grandkids out there and you see if you would let them drive on that one area. I wouldn't. I mean, I understand the Trailblazers are adults that ride their bikes on there. But there's a lot of kids with families out there and the kids ride ahead. And it is an accident waiting to happen and it's not going to be a good outcome for a young child.
There's a motion on the table.
I would not feel comfortable with it. I think if any of you went out there and looked at that situation and think about a child riding a bike at 10 miles an hour, there's no way they're gonna stop and there's nothing to stop them. And if it does, they're gonna flip because of the conditions of that track. They should have rerouted that whole thing to begin with, so you couldn't even use that portion. So that's my take on it. I don't know what we're gonna decide to do, but if we have to vote, I'm gonna vote no.
Excuse me.
I would like to table. I think if we have this much discussion around liability and concerns, and yeah, I don't think we're ready for a vote. I think we need to
So
table this.
we need
until
a
we have-
motion to table, correct?
Correct. Someone needs to make a motion to table and then a second, and then you
I
can vote.
motion to table.
I'll second.
Sandy, thank you. Discussion on tabling. All in favor of tabling this until, I guess, next month?
Till next month.
As long as it's just next month and not for a year or two.
Okay. All opposed? Jeff, where were you at?
I'm opposed.
Okay.
I will go back to the Trailblazers with all the concerns indicated, and we'll come back to the board.
Develop a plan like that. Okay.
I just want to go back and just make
Oh.
sure that I didn't miss anything. We got that one. We got that one. We got that one. That one. That one. That one. That one. And we talked about that one. Okay, I apologize. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything along the way.
We done with this now?
Yes, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, good discussion. The next on the agenda is the budgeting calendar, 2026 budgeting calendar.
So on page 10 of your board packet, and then following up on page 11, you'll see the proposed budget calendar, and we're already talking about 2026. And you'll see that we actually added an additional week of review for our accounting department in there.
Why does accounting get everything?
I'm afraid of them.
I don't blame you.
I make a motion approving the proposed 2026 budget calendar.
Thanks, David.
Second.
Thanks, Deborah. Any further discussion on this one? All in favor? 9-0.
And then we have recommendations from our 3 committees. They've already been recommended for approval by the respective committees.
I make a motion affirming the nomination of John Hauser to the Golf Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm not skipping over Sandy. You can get the next one.
That's okay. You can punish me, I don't care.
Jeff and I personally know John. I think he's going to be a great addition. to the committee and to the community. So he's a good guy. Cares about the community, and he'll be a good addition. Any other comments or questions on John? All in favor? 9-0. Next is rec committee potential members.
I make a motion affirming the nomination of Damon Williams to the Recreation Committee.
Second.
Thanks, Jeff. Any comments on Damon?
I don't know him personally, but I saw his background. I heard him speak at both of the JACs. He sounds like he's got a good background and good intentions and would be added value.
Cool. Thank you, Deborah. Anything else? All in favor of Damon? 9-0. Next one for Russell.
I make a motion affirming the nomination of Russell Rappel to the Recreation Committee.
Thank you,
Second.
Kathleen. Sandy gets that one. Thank you, Sandy. Any further communication or comments on Russell? I gotta sneeze. Achoo. Sorry. All in favor of Russell? 9-0, thank you. Two more left. Mr. Bob for the rec committee.
I make a motion affirming the nomination of Robert Williams to the Recreation Committee. Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Kathleen. Any comments on Bob? All in favor? 9-0, thank you. Next one for Alan.
I make a
Recreation.
motion affirming the nomination of Alan Atkins to the Recreation Committee.
Thank you, Deborah.
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any comments on Alan?
This would be his second go-around. He's very committed, he works very hard, he cares, and he actually goes above and beyond responsibilities and duties by offering additional insight and information to the board and other members of the Recreation Department.
I would agree with Deborah on that. He's
Right.
great.
It's good insight, thanks. All in favor? 9-0. Two Lakes Committee members.
I'll make a motion affirming the nomination of Brett Araby to the Lakes Committee.
Thank you, David. Sandy, second. Any comments on Brett? All in favor of Brett? 9-0. And the last one, Howard Steve Killian.
The guy with two names.
Tyvus, two names.
I make a motion affirming the nomination of Howard Steve Killian to the Lakes Committee.
Thanks, David. Second. Thanks, Bob. Any comments on Howard? Or I guess he goes by Steve, that's why it's in parentheses right now. All in favor of Mr. Killian? 9-0, thank you.
And this will make all our committees whole, and their terms will begin in July. And we traditionally do committee member training in July. Sometimes we delay it to August if the chair requests that, but we'll do that. It's the annual training that we do for new and returning members of the committee.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else before we get into announcements? Oh, all right, here we go. The assessment voting has begun. Emails went out, started to go out Monday. Check your spam and junk boxes in your email. Mine landed there.
Can
Yes?
I just say something about
You-
the assessment vote?
You sure can.
I really, really want to encourage the members to vote. It's
call.
$50,000 if we have to go to a second vote. So I don't care where you stand on the issue, everybody please vote.
Public service announcement. That was awesome. That's very true, Sandy. Thank you. Board of Directors regular session is June 26th, really? Lakes Committee, oops, we're gonna take that one off there. Lakes JAC meeting is, next one is July 9th on Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the boardroom and live streamed. Golf's JAC meeting is Wednesday, July 9th at 4 p.m. here in the boardroom or live stream. Rules and Reg Committee, JB, you're having it, correct? July 10th at 1:30 here in the boardroom and live stream. The next Board of Directors general meeting, which is a closed meeting, is July 10th at 2:30 here in the boardroom Recreation JAC meeting is July 14th at 4 p.m. in the boardroom and live stream. Board of Directors work session is Thursday, July 17th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom and live stream. And our next regular session is July 24th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom and live stream. That's every day. All right, everybody have a good 4th of July. Meeting adjourned.
Stand.